straight touchdown was awesome. I love the way that they ran the ball early. That was a surprise. I don't know about and I have a question mark on this. Do they rotate the running backs too much? That's a question. I just think that, man, at some point you got to find a guy to, take the bulk of the carries. I don't mind rotating a little bit, but I think it's just hard to get in the flow of the game when every other play you're moving in and out of the lineup.
Has any running back earned that right?
Well, and that's a good question. The only one that's really got the opportunity is Javonte. We haven't seen Audric Estime get every time we've seen Estime get opportunities, he's done well with it. Kansas City, he closed the game out against the Chiefs to put us in field goal range there. Couldn't make the kick. And I thought he was running the ball well early. So I think he should get an opportunity to get 14, 15 carries. Next one before half was a killer. I mean, that was just an absolute killer. Sternad penalty was terrible. Horrible call. The non-call on Mims, game changer. And it just seemed the Chargers became more aggressive. We hear about the Chargers defense, and I didn't do a deep dive study. Maybe we can give Mark that over the holidays. We'll let Mark dive into what they seem like they're more passive defense. And they were talking to Troy Aikman. No, not Troy Aikman. Herb Street. He was talking about that early in the game where because they don't have great cornerbacks and secondary players, they play more of a shell coverage and more conservative. And then it seemed like they became a lot more aggressive. Once they realized this isn't working, 3 straight touchdown drives, seemed like they were blitzing a little bit more, and the Broncos didn't have an answer for it. There you go. That's
okay.
Some of my summary there, which
you took notes. I like it.
Yeah, I always take notes. But it's you look at those calls. I mean, what do you think about the Sternad call? What do you think?
Yes. Is it one of those things that you're like, come on? He barely brushed him. And Herbert sold it as well. Okay. But I'm past the point of getting frustrated about these kind of flags that are thrown on defensive players because it's just a very clear message that's being sent by the NFL. By and large, they are going to go to unbelievable lengths to protect quarterbacks, especially, I mean, it's always been this way, but especially in the wake of what happened to Trevor Lawrence just a couple weeks ago when he went into one of those slides and got absolutely destroyed. So they're going to err even more on the side of caution when it comes to these quarterbacks. And I understand the frustration that some of these quarterbacks now, especially Mahomes and Josh Allen, have really taken advantage of it. You know, if I see Mahomes do one of those little, tiptoe along the sidelines where it looks like he's going to go out, and the defensive player, understanding it's not fair, but it is the way it is, they pull up, and then all of a sudden he goes tiptoeing down the sideline for another 7 yards. Or he runs you over
for a touchdown like he did the 49ers
right.
defender.
I get that that's frustrating. Josh Allen has become a soccer player with the way that he tries to sell some of these things, which is a bad look for him because he's such a big, imposing dude out there. But I put the blame on Sternad because...
So you can't even fall on him?
Because once this guy starts to show that he's going to slide, if there's any kind of contact, and especially if the quarterback can sell it a little bit, they're going to throw the flag.
But
we can all sit here, Stoke, as fans, and go, "Oh, it shouldn't be that way. Oh, you're wussifying the NFL. Oh,
I'm not saying that.
It doesn't matter. But the point is that they've sent the message. You're gonna get a flag thrown.
I get the message.
So when the flag gets thrown in that situation, I'm gonna put that on Sternad. You got to be better.
But a few series before. Herbert takes off up the middle and is stiff-arming guys and running all through the defense.
But he didn't slide.
For a big, long – I know, but for a big, long game. Now, all of a sudden, if you're Sternad and you're sitting there and all of a sudden you're like, okay, I don't know if this guy's going to keep running. And so you're getting ready to tackle him. Then he starts to slide. You try to pull off, and you just kind of graze him. And it wasn't a big hit at all. I think in that situation, if they throw the flag, they're talking in the command center or whatever. I mean, they just say pick that thing up. It wasn't a big deal. He just kind of fell on top of him. There was no forcible contact there at all.
I can tell you that is a play I would love to see coaches be able to challenge.
But that's why they have the communication with the command center, where they tell them, hey, that should not be. Let's pick that flag up.
Well, then if that's the case, and there was even an eye in the sky looking at it, and that just tells you that they're just going to protect these guys.
I understand they're going to protect them. I get it. I get it. Blake Watson took a big hit. It looked like he had a concussion, and they put the referee, the retired referee, on there, and he's like, I didn't see any forcible contact to the head.
But they threw a flag.
It was helmet to helmet.
And they threw a flag.
Yes. I mean, that was as clear cut as it can be, and the referee that they pay to look at that stuff didn't see it. Just weird stuff. But I get it. They're going to protect the players. I just thought that in that situation, with how he tried to pull off, and avoid Herbert, barely made contact with them, that was that should have been picked up. But it wasn't. But that wasn't why they lost. They lost because, they didn't finish the game off in the second half. Had opportunities, didn't take advantage of them.
Yeah. You can't go from up 21-10, up 24-13, and lose a game 34-27 when at one point it had become a 34-24 game. You give up a 90-yard drive for the touchdown that put them up 34-24. Your offense gets completely shut down. You can't watch all that and say, well, the ref screwed us. You can't. You can't. It has to fall on the coaches and the players. It was a complete, total coach, player, team collapse. And let's hope that they bounce back. They'll have the extra time off now. They get Cincinnati. We're on to Cincinnati. But here's my concern right now about the Cincinnati game. You're going to be able to score against Cincinnati. They're terrible on defense. But I'm a little bit concerned, not a little bit, I'm a lot concerned with what I've seen from Bo the last couple of weeks. A guy who was maybe too aggressive last week and was too tentative last night. Where is his headspace right now after these last couple games? And defensively, you're going to be playing a Cincinnati team with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. I mean, this might be a game, Stoke, where you're going to have to win it 37-34 next Saturday.
What are the conditions also?
That too.
In Cincy. On the road. Yeah. I mean, we saw Jameis Winston and Jerry Jeudy light us up at home a couple weeks ago. So,
Jeudy.
Yeah, that makes me really nervous. What this defense is going to look like against Burrow and Chase and T. Higgins and that group. So, look, I don't know. I'm nervous here coming down the stretch. I'm hoping that Kansas City wins the next couple games, and they're just looking to tap out or play a half or play a quarter with those guys and not really care about the last game.
On this Bronco Reaction Friday, is it just me Friday? Is it just me, or this season has proven that we got the wrong coach in Sean instead of Harbaugh?
I'm totally good with who we got. Harbaugh does a good job. That's fine. I like our coach, so I think it's not perfect. Harbaugh's not perfect, but I don't feel that way at all. Do you?
No. I love Harbaugh. I told you when we were going through this whole process that Peyton was 1 and Harbaugh was 1A for me. It was that close. I would have been ecstatic if they got Harbaugh, either one. But hey, let's when we're doing the tale of the tape between these two, one guy walked into a situation where he has an established franchise quarterback. The other guy walked into Russ and now a rookie quarterback. So let's keep that in mind. And if you flip the two and all of a sudden Sean's got Herbert and Harbaugh's working with Bo, you still feeling the same way?
I feel good. I feel good about who we have and what's happened here. We can't forget where we were before Sean got here. People just forget real quick when you have a tough loss. People panic.
They do panic.
And they forget about where this organization was a couple years ago.
But in fairness to the fans, though, Stoke.
I like how you stick up for the fans.
Well,
I like you take the fan side.
Well, no, here's because there'll be a time whenever this season ends and whatever happens where we will be able to sit back, exhale, and say, wow, considering what the expectations were at the beginning of the season, this actually worked out really well.
Mm-hmm.
But once you're in the heat of it, and you're right in the middle of the season, and you're living and dying with this thing every week, and all of a sudden this team, they've exceeded expectations, but they did exceed expectations. And here's the kind of the new normal. You're sitting there at 9-5, you're up 21-10, and people are thinking, hey, who knows where this thing could go? And then to have it fall apart the way that they did, I can understand why people aren't really taking time to think about the big picture right now. They're thinking about the opportunity that was lost yesterday and why was it lost?
Yeah.
And who do we blame for it? And that's why you get what you get.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I'm frustrated too. I was pissed off because that game should have been won. I mean, when you have a game won like that and you kind of give it away and then you don't make the plays down the stretch, and it's frustrating. But man, just to all of a sudden say, "Oh, got the wrong coach. Should have hired that guy." I mean, I just think that's a way overreaction. Way overreaction. Let's see how this thing plays out. We're still in a good position to make the playoffs. All is not lost. It's frustrating, but this team has been resilient. They've had some tough moments over the last couple of years, some tough stretches, and they've always been able to persevere. And so that's what I'm hanging my hat on here that they're going to do heading into the Cincy game.
Why don't you guys talk about how Sean passed the ball instead of running it to give them a free kick field goal? The whole game changed after the Chargers got the ball back and got those 3 free points. Yeah, we've talked about it a number of times today, and we'll come back to it. But did the fact it wasn't handled right, and it was poor coaching and it was poor execution by Traymon Smith, but the fact that they came out to start the third quarter, the Broncos did, and went down and got a field goal of their own. At that point, do you feel that whatever momentum had been gained by the Chargers had sort of been neutralized at that point? Yeah. So I
felt that.
I just think the Broncos just got thoroughly outplayed in the second half. I don't feel like there was just such a huge momentum shift that the Broncos never got it back. They came out and responded quite well at the start of the third quarter.
And that's what I was looking for after that disaster of a finish to the second half, to the first half, and they gave them 3 points. Well, how would they respond when they got to football? And they did well. I mean, they drove down the field. They made that 4th and 2. Which I had to kick the field goal there. I put in my notes, I had to kick the field goal. They did an aggressive, good job, Sean, to give you credit for that one, right? And ended up getting points out of it. Okay. All right, they didn't let that affect them in the second half. Great job. Way to go down and get points and put the pressure back on the Chargers.
24-13. 24-13, 8:30 left in the third.
And the defense just couldn't hold. They just couldn't hold. You got that penalty on Sternad. That was the Sternad penalty where you hold him to a field goal. If he doesn't get that penalty and get the penalty, next thing you know, next play is a touchdown. But no, there was no carryover from the end of the first half.
Guys, I'm sorry. I disagree with both of you. I'm so sick and tired of hearing that you can't blame the refs for costing a football team a win. Crappy calls cost games. There's no gray area. Quit protecting the Zebras.
Oh, I'm not protecting them. They were brutal. They were terrible. But, at the same time as a player, you have to own up and take responsibility for your play. Did the non-call on Mims, what happened if Jonathan Cooper keeps containment on 3rd down and 10 and keeps Herbert in the pocket instead of letting him get outside and scramble, and then 4 or 5 plays later it's a 90-yard touchdown drive and game over. There's plays out there to be made that if they make those, even with the bad calls, they win. So, yeah, does it hurt? Of course it hurts. That should have been a no call on Sternad, and it was clear pass interference. I don't know how the guy just jumps into our receiver. The ball is still in the air. Did he ever look back? No. Grabs his arm. You just can't even make that up. How do you not call it? And obviously that would have been a big play. But you know what? You had other opportunities. So that's just kind of the way I look at it. But if you want to say the refs cost the Broncos the game, that's your prerogative. I'm not going to go that far, but they were brutal. They were terrible.
Yeah, to the texter who says, well, stop giving the Zebras a pass. But then what you're saying then is I'm supposed to give the Broncos coaches and players a pass? Because that's what you're saying, and I refuse to do that. It's a 60-minute football game. There's way too many things that happen that should not come down to a call here or there. So that one play, you can look at, one person will look at it and say, man, that was a horse bleep call and it should have been a pass interference. I choose to look at it and say a quality quarterback doesn't throw a floater like that and leads Marvin Mims, who clearly had his guy beaten, and that's a walk-in touchdown. So I guess it just depends on how you choose to look at it. I tend to put more of the onus on the players in those situations, and to me it's not about, they missed the PI call. It's more, you missed what should have been an easy touchdown.
Yeah. It's I look at it both ways, where the ref's got to make the call, and you got to make a better throw. It's twofold to me. And so I think the Sternad one, hey, you just can't fault on the quarterback. Can't touch him at all, I guess, when he's sliding like that. And but I still don't think it should have been called. So
from Paul, is it just me, or is why no blame being directed at Vance Joseph? We scored enough points to win. And if I had told you before the game, Denver Broncos are going to go on the road and score 27 points. Stoke, you got to win that football game.
Yeah.
You have to. No matter how it looks, and the fact that they scored 21 early and then bogged down, the fact is they scored 27 points on the road. That needs to be enough to hold up.
Yeah.
It has to be.
I agree. What are you going to do? Say this defense stinks now? The defense has carried this football team all year, and I get it. It just wasn't good enough in the second half. And they've been a little bit off when you look at some of the assignment football, technique football, and not doing the little things.
Is this all Riley Moss?
No. I thought the secondary was fine. It wasn't a secondary. It was just killer penalties. They did make some plays, but they got guys too. They got McConkey. They got McConkey, but I thought Abrams Drain was doing a pretty good job. Nice interception by him. I don't think it's Riley Moss at all. Certainly not having him against Cleveland hurt, but you didn't really see much against Indy or last night where it's like, this guy just killed us because Riley Moss wasn't out there. I just think it was combination of a bunch of different things. They're just a little bit off. And, I go back to that Jonathan Cooper one. They had him 3rd down and 10 at the 10-yard line with 3:43 to go in the game. You're going to get the ball back again, probably 40-yard line. Go 60 for a touchdown to win it, or go 20, 30 yards to kick a field goal. And you don't keep containment. And then a couple plays later, Cody Barton doesn't stay in his gap and goes the wrong way and tries to olay the offensive lineman instead of taking him on and holding the gap. And then Gus Edwards goes for 43 or whatever it was. It's little things like that.
So, because one thing that we heard commentators working Bronco games this season was like, what I really like about this defense? They're so sound. They're a really connected defense. They fly around, but they're very, very sound, and they don't really get caught out of position. But we've seen a lot of that over the last 3 weeks.
Yes, a lot. Way too much.
How do you explain a team that's been so sound and so connected and so well coached and playing with such a high IQ, all of a sudden these last 3 games, all these cracks? Is it a case where players maybe are starting to kind of feel themselves a little bit and trying to do too much?
That could be a possibility, certainly. I don't know. I wish I had a good answer for you. But you're right. You know, there's 3 games in a row. I mean, I broke down all those Cleveland plays to Jerry Jeudy, and a lot of it was just blown assignments. They had the 2-point play. The touchdown to Nick Chubb. Just nobody covered Nick Chubb.
Right.
Cover 0, and they were just nobody covered the guy. So just stuff like that. We saw Anthony Richardson just walk in the end zone because Jonah Ellis, didn't stay outside and try to go tackle the running back. We saw Jonathan Taylor go wide, untouched down the field. Bad tackling, bad angles. Thank goodness he dropped the ball. And then, so you're just seeing little things like that really hurt the Broncos. I can't give you an answer of why, though.
Was nice to see Drew Sanders out there last night.
Yeah, you saw
got
him.
himself a sack. That was nice.
Yeah, I mean, seeing Drew on the field at all is just impressive, given that he tore his Achilles, it feels like 6 months ago.
Yeah.